than nothing.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Squat Cobbler. This is episode 23 now, so we're getting up there in years. I am Mike at Official Pagan on just about everything, and joining me as always.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly Toole at KELLYTHUL.
Now, Kelly, do you want to kick off the recommendations this week?
I would be delighted to, Mike.
Delighted. Like it.
Delighted. This is fun because I really, really enjoy. I'm recommending some music this time, and I truly enjoy this collection of work, and so I'm excited to share it with you. And it also allows me to be the party that gets us the explicit tag for this episode. So
very nice. See, and I just want Kelly finally admitted, he's the edgy one on this show. He's the one throwing out those recommendations that are going to make some people question his moral standings.
Yeah, I'm not going to be required to put a disclaimer in front of this episode like previous episodes.
We don't know that yet. We don't know that yet.
So we'll just have to see. Yeah, we'll see on that. But so how familiar are you, Mike, with Tonio K? Tonio space K.
Not particularly. I've heard the name before, and that's about it.
So I'm a huge fan of his stuff. He, in one of the reviews, someone who was a little less enthusiastic about Tonio K, described him to say, if Warren Zevon is Jackson Browne as a werewolf, then Tonio K is Jackson Browne as a smartass. Yeah, that's kind of the way he described him.
You know what? I kind of like that description.
He's super fun stuff, and I have recommended on Nurture and Support. This is back in the early days when I was young and impressionable, not thinking things through. And instead of buying myself Latitude, I simply recommended Tonio K in general, which precluded me from recommending individual albums, which was really kind of an unfortunate timing. But
everything from Tonio K.
Just get it all. It's great. I'm refining my recommendations to talk about some of his specific albums, and this one is it's a compilation. It's basically a lot of the studio stuff that never made it to any of his albums. It's called Rodent Weekend 76 through 96 approximately. And actually it's in the liner notes, which are hilarious to read. He goes, well, it's probably more like 75 to 98, but that doesn't sound very good. So we're going to say 76 to 96 approximately. Rodent Weekend. And it's 19 tracks of various magical moments of Tonio K that did not make their way to most of them did not make their way to albums. Some of them did. It's a fun listen. What I was his name is Steve Simons from Stereo Review, when he used to do album reviews, and when Life in the Food Chain, Tonio K's first album, came out, Steve Simons' review of it was, this is the greatest album of all time. Which when America, his second album, came out, he goes, this is the greatest album of all time. And between those first two, there was some chatter about it, and what I was led to believe in reading my Stereo Review was after Life in the Food Chain, which included the magical Funky Western Civilization song, there was talk of the second Tonio K album, which ended up being America. But at the time, they said it's going to be called Funky Western Civilization Phase 2, and it's going to include that as a title track. It's going to have a song on it called Everything, Including You, Disgusts Me. Russia Don't Even Like Your Mama. And I was like, this is going to be the greatest album ever. But, and Too Cool to Be Christian was the other song that was mentioned. So America came out and had none of those. However, Rodent Weekend, we do get Funky Western Civilization Phase 2. And Funky Western Civilization is an amazing song. Funky Western Civilization Phase 2 is kind of a psychotic song, but it does pick up very much on the same thing. In fact, as Frank Zappa's manager, Herbie Cohen, was one of the first people that Tonio K was talking to about becoming a manager. He goes, you don't need a manager, you need a therapist. And so you got Frank Zappa's manager saying that to somebody, you got some magic going on. So Rodent Weekend is a collection of incredibly cool things. Funky Western Civilization Phase 2 is on here. Everything, Including You, Disgusts Me is on here. Too Cool to Be Christian is on here. So these are some really, really great songs. A lovely ditty called Mars Needs Women, Maybe You Should Apply is also on there. So it's a lot of really great music. He favored So it was rock and humor and sarcasm, but he would go a little dada from time to time and do some really kind of nonsensical or very strange things, most of which never made it to any of the albums. But he did for this release. It's called Rodent Weekend. And the last track on Rodent Weekend is called Harness the Hamster / Rodent Weekend 76. And this was a conceptual piece that they worked on and recorded. It consists of a hamster whose name is John Paul III on a wheel, running through a wheel, while they call a long-distance operator, and all she hears is the hamster, and she's like, can I help you? Can I help you? Can I help you? And you've got the hamster going, and Nick Van Marth, who is the best growler in the history of music. He has growled on multiple Tonio K albums to great effect. Nick had a box full of rocks and twigs and dirt that he was shaking during that was then overlaid on the hamster but interacting with the operator on all those types of things. So that's how the album ends. So that's something to look forward to from there.
It definitely sounds up my alley.
Yeah, I think you're going to love a lot of this stuff. Mars Needs Women is just a fantastic song. The Funky Western Civilization Phase 2. It's going to be hard to top Funky Western Civilization. It certainly gives it a run for its money, and just some good strong stuff. So some of it's a little bit more straightforward rock, some of it's kind of humor, some of it's a little dada, but it's really kind of fun. But I did mention explicit, so I wanted to, he included, so there's 19 tracks on this, but he includes in the liner notes all the other songs he has that didn't get on the track. And these are all ones that he performed at different points in time. And they are songs like 10,000 Dentists, Revenge of the Petrified Forest, You'd Probably Swallow Anything, Bluebird Stew, Shoot Me, Fuck the Whales. That was the one that I thought... I really am disappointed that Fuck the Whales was not on this album, because that would have been...
Well, I mean, I have so many questions about Fuck the Whales right off the bat. Are we talking about sex with whales, or Fuck the Whales as in we don't care about the whales?
I believe it's a little bit more about disinterest in helping the whales, but having never heard the track, I can't say for sure.
You can't rule out whale sex.
I can't rule out, but there may be a version of that out there. I'm going to search hard to see if I can find a live version of Fuck the Whales so we can get.
So you're going to search hard. You're going to go deep Google searching about fucking whales.
Yeah, I guess you could phrase it that way. But yeah, that's what I'll be doing. But
there's beautiful things about to happen in your search history.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of Facebook ads I start to get. It's Tonio K. Rodent Weekend, 76 to 96 approximately, 19 tracks of fun, including John Paul III, the hamster, appearing at the end. You get the whole list of all the songs that didn't make it that sound awesome. I'll see what I can find from this time period to include in the blog post. His actual work, this is B-side stuff. This is stuff that didn't make it. If you haven't ever listened to Life in the Food Chain, America, these are really good stuff. La Bamba is actually really, really good too. So he's got a lot of fun stuff out there. But I would recommend chase down Rodent Weekend. You can probably find a YouTube playlist. It's got all those songs on there, and you can enjoy it. Funky Western Civilization Phase 2 kicks the album off, and it gets us off to a darn good start.
Now, are you typically a fan or the type of fan who will track down B-sides and unreleased songs and stuff like that? Or do you just like sticking to the traditional albums from artists?
For folks that I really like, I like to track down the extra stuff where I can. A lot of times you get those through box sets and those types of things. So like for Alice Cooper, who we talk about a lot, the Alice Cooper box set managed to capture a bunch of things that were missing B-sides. There's a No Tricks song that actually was around from the Inside era was there. And I mentioned this on the last show we did. Look at You Over There Ripping the Sawdust from My Teddy Bear, which I thought was a joke title, is an actual song, and it's on the box set. So when I can find them for someone who I really, really like, I like to get it. But I also kind of recognize most things that are B-sides or unreleased or B-sides or unreleased for a reason.
Yeah, there can definitely be some of that. Are you in any way a Prince fan?
So I don't dislike him. I think there's a few. I respect the musicianship and the talent quite a bit, and big fan of My Name Is Prince. I Am So Funky, because I sing that a lot. That's the way I like to enter a room. Just tell people my name is Prince.
That's your theme music.
Yep, pretty much. It's a good icebreaker. So decent, respected. I don't really have any of his material, but I also never shy away if it's on. It's not like I never say, "Oh, get that off" or whatever. I enjoy his stuff quite a bit. How about you?
Huge Prince fan overall. I don't like everything he did, and he's one of those artists who I'm going to say to even a bigger extent than Alice Cooper or David Bowie or stuff like that, but someone who's not only had a long career, but made it a point to try out different genres of music. Like he has not just the traditional Prince stuff. There's some stuff that's more hard rock leaning. He did a classical instrumental album. There's, acoustic blues records. There's more rap oriented stuff. So he really made it a point to try out everything. It doesn't all work. And as typically happens when you do that kind of stuff, but I do respect somebody who can do that, and I respect the musicianship of it all. But the reason that I mentioned it is because one record of his that I do particularly like that most fans don't, mostly because of the way it's released, was mishandled. There was a collection released of unreleased Prince material, and some of that I thought was actually stronger than stuff that had made the actual official albums. And after hearing that, like I do, particularly if I really like an artist, I do try and track these types of things down.
So if it was stronger, why do you think it didn't make the cut? Was it content? Was it just maybe the vibe of the album?
Some of it you can really tell. He did write, and this is where, again, the mishandling of the album became a really big issue for a lot of people. There is a booklet that was contained in some copies of the album where he had written, I don't want to say extensive, but at least some liner notes explaining why these songs were not released. Some of them are just really long, and you can hear sort of the germ of other songs that came later out of some of those longer songs. Like there's a few songs that are around or crack the 10-minute mark that would have, not really sat that well on some of his albums, but you can see where that led to certain other songs that came after it, things like that. Some of those longer songs, though, particularly when he's playing with his live band and they're just kind of jamming on ideas, like some of that stuff is really great in terms of, particularly for like rhythm sections of bands like bass players and drummers and things like that. Like it's excellent musicianship that you hear on a lot of those tracks. So it's a really great album. It gets maligned a lot because it was very, very poorly handled, the release. But that led me to kind of track down these types of collections. So I'm definitely interested in listening to this.
It's a fun one. There are moments, and I'm a big John Paul III fan, so any of his work I always enjoy. So.
Well, that was an excellent recommendation, sir. And it actually, Kelly and I do not discuss these recommendations beforehand, but it does sort of tie into mine a little bit. I'm recommending the same album.
You're recommending whale sex.
Actual whale sex. How could that possibly have been? No. I'm recommending a compilation of unreleased music from an artist as well.
There you go.
My recommendation. So, have you ever heard of the metal band Emperor?
I'm going to have to go no on that one. How long have they been around?
Quite some time. They're more, I would say, influential and critically beloved than necessarily a commercial band. They were an excellent band, though. Their original bass player, who was not with the band for very long, who went by the name Mortiis, left and became a solo artist. His solo work is some of my favorite work. He was a huge influence on me when I started making my own music and getting more serious about making music, and so many other people that I listen to have been influenced very directly by his music. When he initially started making solo music directly out of Emperor, he went in a very different direction and focused primarily on doing more ambient soundscape type music. And then as he progressed, it got more and more structured, and now it's more of an industrial rock type thing. But in the beginning, it was very loose, very experimental. While he was doing this, though, and while his namesake band was progressing, he would do little side projects and side bands here and there. One of those side projects that's actually, when I tell people that I'm influenced by him, I'm specifically referring to this one side project of his called Vond. And Vond made they put out a 7-inch and then 3 full-length studio albums. During that time that came out, there was a lot of rumors of a 4th or 5th, if you count the 7-inch, release from Vond titled AIDS to the People. Not aid, AIDS to the people. And what I liked about Vond, the early Vond material is very similar to the Mortiis material in that it's kind of loose, kind of ambient. However, the early Mortiis material is heavily influenced by fantasy and sci-fi elements, which still are kind of there, but they've fallen farther back into the whole mixture of things. None of that is in the Vaughn stuff, and that's why I liked it more. Not that I dislike that kind of stuff, but it was really just more focused on the dark atmosphere of the music when you strip away those sort of fantasy and sci-fi elements to it. And each of the Vaughn albums has its own distinct identity. And recently, to celebrate sort of reissuing his entire back catalog, they reissued the 3 Vaughn albums, the full-length albums. The first of which is my favorite, which is called Selvmord, which means suicide in English. And the original pressings of the vinyl cover of it is Mortiis cutting himself with a razor blade. And on the original pressings of the vinyl, taped to the record was a razor blade when you pulled it out of the sleeve. Many stores refused to stock that album as a result of it.
That's a shocker.
Yeah, but that's actually a really excellent album, but not my recommendation. To go along with these, the long-rumored Lost Vond EP, Aids to the People, was finally released. It had reached a point, at least for like more underground collector-type people, where I distinctly remember speaking to fellow fans who even said that they didn't think this was actually recorded, that it was just something he announced and never got around to doing. And part of that is because in interviews, when he was asked about it, he basically said that the direction that Vond was going in kind of just became the direction that his main band, his namesake band, was going in. So some of that material eventually worked its way into that. So in a lot of people's minds, those songs eventually came out just in another form with one of his other projects. So this proves all of that wrong. This was an actual release. This would have been an actual EP. And since the other 3 full-length albums were reissued and this was only an EP, they made it sort of a compilation, and they put the original 7-inch from that project, pasted basically to the end of this, making it sort of a compilation. So it is a full-length release because it has the tracks from the 7-inch, the original 7-inch, as well as the unreleased EP on it. I don't think it's the strongest Vond release, but it's definitely the most interesting because you hear the beginning and end of the band. You get their very first 7-inch, you can kind of hear where it starts, and then you hear where it ends with the unreleased EP. And specifically, I wanted to recommend this one over, say, the Suicide album or anything else, because I think it would be cool if you're into this type of music that's sort of dark and experimental. Those are 3 great albums to get into. They're, I don't want to say accessible because none of that type of music is particularly accessible by its nature, but they're a little bit more accessible and a little bit easier to wrap your head around for some people than to go with something that's even more out there avant-garde than this. And I think that this is a good way. He has digital copies up on his site of all 4 releases, and I want to say they're like $8 each, so you can kind of get the entire discography for around $30 right now.
Electronic copy, or you guys, is a
electronic copy? But he's also offering CDs and vinyl. The CDs and vinyl are shipping from Norway though, so shipping's a little steep on that if you're going the physical route. You
get your razor blade with the physical.
No, as far as I know, the physical reissue of Suicide does not include a razor blade with it. I remember when I first bought the Suicide album, I'd heard about the controversy surrounding it, and I was a big fan of the Mortiis namesake band. When I finally tracked it down, the name, I had a hard time finding it because for the US release, they changed the name of the album and the cover artwork to try and avoid some of the issues that they had run into before. So it was the same music on the album, but different name, different cover artwork. So now you can get the original cover artwork for that. As of the moment that we're recording this, the Suicide album is the only one that's available from mainstream streaming and download sites. So the only way you can get a digital copy of these is from his site, or to buy a physical copy and just put it on your iPod yourself. But it's really cool to kind of get this unreleased album that for a long time I was definitely convinced would never come out, and some people were convinced really didn't exist, just kind of became the groundwork for future songs.
And so when you got that and you got a chance to listen to it, were you're recommending it, so you liked it?
I did enjoy it, yes.
Because I just go back to the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson era, and all this talk about Smile, and this is going to be the big thing, and all the effort he's putting into Smile, and Eventually that all just kind of fell apart, and they took parts of it and put out Good Vibrations and did that. And then much time passed, and then eventually Brian Wilson did release Smile, I guess where it would have gone at the end. And I was like super excited to get it. I was less than wowed by what the final. So sometimes the buildup doesn't match up, but it sounds like in this case that's not the case, and it was pretty cool.
No, I completely understand, because I kind of felt the same way with Smile. I did enjoy it, but it could never match the expectations. This is a little bit of the same thing, only not quite as much. I'm not going to say, because of being a hardcore fan of the Vaughn stuff, no, it didn't live up to my expectations of waiting years and wondering if it was ever going to come out. I did really enjoy it. Suicide is still my favorite album, though. This doesn't overtake that. What I really like about this, though, is the way they presented it with that first, sort of really just a demo that the 7-inch was, and then the unreleased final EP. You get to hear the beginning and end of a band, which I thought was kind of cool. But the stuff that comes in between is stronger.
So we got a lot of music for you this up. Any hamsters in this, by the way?
Not that I know of, but like I said, each of the 3 full-length, excluding the 7-inch and the now final released EP, the 3 full-length albums that came out in the middle, each one is completely different. And the third of them is a collage of different sounds and field recordings and things like that. So there could have been a hamster involved at some point.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe John Paul III was on both.
Could have been.
Been very, very cool. All right. Social media recommendation time?
Sounds good. What do you got, sir? I'm going to let you go first, just in case I say anything that you want to punish me for, and don't give a social media recommendation. I've learned my lesson.
You're crafty. You're crafty that way. I'm going to recommend this young lady who goes by @dork_power, Dork Power on Twitter. A fairly recent follow for me on Twitter. I'll make these kind of social media recommendations a lot. I'm a big fan of playing the hashtag games that are out there. And there's a pretty good constituency of folks out there that are really, really good at it. She's one of them. And so just and one of the recent go-rounds on some sort of hashtag game came across her and liked a couple of her things. She liked a couple of mine. And so ended up connecting with her. It's Dork_power. She's funny. She plays hashtag games a lot. She's pretty cool. So I figure that's a good recommendation for this week for me.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, I was really torn because I felt like I could go into this recommending something that was related to myself, like that people should start using hashtag, say drones and blowjobs, because that's going to be the name of my band's tour later this year. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to recommend that people do that. Instead, I'm going to recommend that people follow our friend Rebecca Kennedy.
Poor Rebecca, if she only knew she was up against in terms of...
It was deciding between her and that people use the hashtag drones and blowjobs.
Just don't know how she's going to feel about that. but yeah, Rebecca's awesome. I think whether it's on Twitter you follow her, or she's very active on Facebook as well. She's such a nice person. Takes time to interact with you. So if you do follow her, be nice to her.
Yeah, really great person. And you might as well just throw hashtag drones and blowjobs on there when you're tweeting at her.
Yeah, well, not at Rebecca, probably.
Well, not at Rebecca. All right, your next tweet that's not tagging Rebecca Kennedy in it, hashtag drones and blowjobs.
Yeah, let's make some segmentation there, because I think we want Rebecca to remain our friend. I'm not sure.
Yes. So go add Rebecca as a friend, then tweet something with hashtag drones and blowjobs.
And then she'll be so delighted to have you in her timeline. And there's going to be a tour T-shirt or a logo too related to. Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of stuff related to it. The name, there's not a whole lot put together yet. And basically, it's just we have some stuff going on during the summer, like Snark Stock and a few other like events and festivals and stuff we're doing. So it's all relatively close together. It wasn't planned as a tour, but we're like, we should just make T-shirts and call it a tour. And somebody suggested the name Drones and Blowjobs, and it just came together like magic.
So you're the house band for Pagans, the house band for Snark Stock. Is that?
I don't know that we're the house band, but we're going to be there. So it's close enough.
I think that makes you the house band, pretty much.
Yeah. I don't think we're playing, but we'll physically be there. So if you want to come out and allegedly do some coke with us, and what about you, Kelly? Are you coming out to Snark Stock this year?
So gotta work on it. The guys, you gotta go with the power of the people on where they chose, and it looks like so Georgia was selected as the location, which was a bit of a surprise to me because I didn't know we had a big Georgia Snarkalic contingent.
I don't understand that at all. I was told Texas was set, and then They're like, it's Georgia, but hey, I mean, it's actually about half the distance for me. So
Makes it a little bit more for me. So we'll see. But I would certainly, those have, I've not been able to make one yet, and they look really, really fun. So I want to see what I can do to figure it out. So I am continuing to investigate options because I do have a desire to make it. I just gotta do the research how to get down there and back, because it's a bit of a trip. So we'll see how it goes. But I'd like to get there. So Christian's going to be there.
Yeah, I know he's interested in coming. Vex mentioned being interested in coming. I will definitely be there. So it should be a good time.
What about my man Carl?
You know what? I got to talk to Carl and see what he's up to. I'm sure he'd be interested.
If Carl's there, then I'm gonna probably have to find a way, because Carl and I need to hang. But you get anything else?
No. I think that's about it for me. We both recommend it. Music compilations, which is interesting. That shows great minds thinking alike, and how much Kelly and I really are on the same page.
Yeah, sometimes in some ways. But
now, be honest with our listeners before we sign off here. Have you watched the Scooby-Doo video?
I have not. I have. Yeah. No, I have not, but I will. I don't want to disappoint you for long, so I'll put myself in a position where I can say yes, I've watched it, but I've not been able to make it yet, because I just can't. That's an interesting search to add to the old search history. So I'm just kind of biding my time a little bit.
So you can just say you're looking up the band. That's all.
Do a little research for the show. So help me with that. How does a dark ambient band get a page on Pornhub?
We are doing music videos for every song off of our new album, Dead Girls. The video, we haven't run into any kind of issues, but we're putting a version of every video up on YouTube, and then Amazon is getting all the videos plus a few exclusives. Some of the videos are a little more extreme than others, so we thought maybe we could take some of those videos, see what the interest level was, and then if there was an interest level, create a third video for a couple of the tracks that might be more suited for something like Pornhub, where there's really no content restrictions at all. At least none that we would even come close to violating. So we did put this Scarlet Seduction video up, which is up on YouTube. That's not something that, we ran into any issues with. But we did get, of all the videos, that's the one that I've gotten the most negative feedback to, as far as people being offended, not the production itself. Have you seen the video?
Yeah, I was thrown because, first of all, when you kind of sent along and say, hey, just so you know, might not be safe for work. And I'm like, you were exercising judgment and things. I was like, wow, what's going on here? This must be, they're just going to.
Not like bring the kids over. It
seemed out of sorts. So I was like, well, this I've got to watch, because Mike's saying, well, just be careful. Looking out for you. But no, I thought it was good. I liked it. It's it's not Zootopia, probably not for the kids in terms of that, but no, I liked it. I thought it was good.
There's nothing that really like pushes the extreme with it. I got some negative feedback about the sort of religious imagery in it. Some people were offended by that, but again, I think if you're listening to a band called Pagan and a song off an album called Dead Girls, you walked into that with your eyes open.
As we established recently, God has followed me on Twitter because he's a squatty. We've
right,
kind of
obviously.
That. And so I guess we could, I can shoot him a DM and
make sure he's cool with it.
A DP, it's a direct prayer, in Twitter. So gotta shoot.
So there's actually a genre, a small genre that predominantly was late 70s, early 80s type movies, but there's been a few. And that's what I was kind of trying to reference with the video. It's called Nunsploitation.
Okay.
And
I'm sorry, I missed that grouping, but okay.
Yeah. After Nazi zombie movies, it's my favorite like obscure horror subgenre. And Nunsploitation, and there's been a few entries in that genre more recently. And I kind of wanted to do something like that because for the most part, the Dead Girls videos, and again, we're doing a video for every song, and some of them have more than one video. So we don't want to run out of ideas too quickly. And death is a recurring theme in a lot of these videos, as you'll see. And if you saw the other videos at the point that we're recording this that are out, you have a dead body in the first one that the police are discovering. In the second video, you have somebody committing suicide. In the fourth video that came out, you have a kid like burning his school down. And although you don't see anyone die. You could make the implication that somebody dies, or at least there's destruction in the video. So I wanted to kind of go a really different direction with one of them, and nunsploitation seemed like the way to go.
Yeah, that's certainly more upbeat than the other.
I did get. I was showing somebody from the label, and because they saw the first few videos, and they're like, "Is everyone just gonna be like dark and death related?" They weren't telling me to change it. They were just kind of making a joke. And then I sent them this video, and they were like, "Go back to killing people. It's fine."
There's the slogan for the back of your T-shirts for the tour. Go back to killing people. It's fine.
The drones and blowjobs tour. Go back to killing people.
Yep. Cool. Well, when we get next time we get back together, we'll be talking Alice again, so that'll be pretty cool. Absolutely.
Now, do you think? I think at some point we should invite Mel on one of these Alice shows too. Does she have a favorite Alice album?
So, not shockingly enough, I've recommended quite a few Alice Cooper albums over the years in Nurture and Support prior to Squat Cobbler and us doing this Alice stuff. $1 Billion Babies being one of those, of course. She likes $1 Billion Babies quite a bit. I don't think I tried to get her excited about Special Forces. I didn't get a lot of luck there. I don't think.
Has she heard Constrictor?
No. Maybe that's the episode we have her on, and we can kind of lobby her to say here's why you need to get Constrictor, because it's pretty awesome. And that's a good Alice Mel album.
Constrictor, yeah.
I would say of the ones coming up, that's a good one. That would be. I think she would enjoy it. I think she would identify with The World Needs Guts right now. So.
And we can all identify with Man Behind the Mask.
Yes. Oh, I think she's going to love that one too. Yeah, we should talk to her because I think that would be a good one. That I know one we don't want to have her on, or maybe we have her on for that show in my place.
It's just her. That album is just her talking. I like the In Your Place idea, but maybe we still call her Kelly.
Yep. It's just
like we just switch out. She's a stunt Kelly for that album.
And I think she's probably listened to that particular album as many times as I have. So
there you go.
We're gonna be on equal footing.
But seriously, people, Constrictor, go listen to it before we talk about it, just so you're ready.
Yeah, it's super fun.
I've had real conversations with people about the potential of getting lyrics from that album tattooed to me.
When we talk about it, I'll be interested to hear which subsets are front runners for that.
Oh, there's one that I can't even say front runner. I think it's going to happen. So we'll let the squatties. That'll be a little cliffhanger for the squatties.
There you go. Spoiler: it's not.
You gave it away.
Sorry. Excellent. Well, I think that we got our social media recommendations. So I think that wraps us up for this week. And I'd like to thank everybody for listening. And we'll be back in a little bit. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. And there's a lot of Scooby-Doo porn in general that I didn't know existed until the last couple weeks.
You must be so proud.
I'm just proud of myself that I got through my entire recommendation without using any objectionable language.
Okay. I want to be cool like Alice Cooper do coke.